topic for the day. How do you control bad habits and vices? Now, we all have had situations where a bad habit has got out of hand. You know, you've gone through situations where like bad vices come into play. The best advice I can probably give is trying to replace those bad habits and vices with more positive ones. And, you know, that might come into just doing activities, going out with like-minded folk, going out with people who will help you actively try to get off those types of things. Holding yourself accountable and trying to be like, all right, listen, man, like the things I am doing aren't beneficial to me, aren't going to help me in my long term. They're really only pleasures for my short term. And understanding that, kind of just reevaluating yourself, I think those could be quite important. So first off, I think it starts with you kind of evaluating who you are. Realizing, understanding, finding out how these habits kind of came into play, why you're doing the habits, you know, just being honest with yourself. If you have one or two people who you can kind of trust, maybe talk to them about it, get an outside opinion. And then maybe doing some research on the habits that you're partaking in. Maybe by you understanding how negatively they impact you, it kind of like wakes you up and it's like, all right, damn,
it might kind of force you to maybe change.
Yeah, it helps you justify not doing those things in the first place. Because if you know, damn, smoking is really bad for me, like smoking cigarettes is going to eventually give me cancer, all the bad things that they put inside of it, maybe that can kind of help you along the line of, well, the things I'm putting in my body aren't good for me, you know? I think with pornography, they say it messes with the gray matter in your brain.
I believe it's gray matter. I believe it's gray matter.
And just over time, it just like messes with your head. It messes with your idea of what sex is and really changes all that.
Your expectations.
Your expectations and all that type of stuff. So because of that, you can kind of like, damn, maybe I should stop, you know, watching this so much because this can kind of change the perception and my thought process on what should be just a natural thing I'm doing with a woman. Now I'm just trying to do all these different moves that these actors are doing that really aren't as comfortable as you really think they are. So I think a lot of this kind of comes down to being honest with yourself, you know, understanding that you might have a problem, especially some of these bad habits, they turn into addictions. Yeah. So understanding you have a problem, understanding that, hey, maybe I need help, asking for that help, because a lot of people try to do this alone. And it's tremendously harder to get rid of bad habits when you're doing them by yourself compared to if you have someone else there to help you. A lot of people don't have the determination and the wherewithal to kind of stick it out. Yeah. Go through the 2 or 3 weeks of withdrawals that you might have from those activities. Having people around you to either hold you accountable, keep you accountable, remind you of why you're doing what you're doing, what purpose that you're on, they can help tremendously.
Yeah, fair. I would say try not to put yourself in the environment that you realize induces said bad habits. So sometimes, you know, let's say you're trying to stop drinking. But yet if you're constantly going to the bar where everyone else around you is drinking or participating in such bad habit that you're trying to cut off, it's going to be so much harder for you to stop because you're literally in an environment where everyone is doing it. Also, it's not like everyone there is doing it and singing it and like basically talking down about it. They're
saying don't do it.
They're basically all like almost singing its praises in a way.
Like, hey man, do you want a shot? Some of them will go out of their way to actively purchase drinks for you.
Frankly, we've been at bars where people have bought us shots before. So some people, if they like you enough, they'll buy you a shot. They will actually extend the hand. And just seeing everyone else doing it, especially in a fun environment, it makes it harder. So I would definitely say don't put yourself in the environments that it happens. Also, sometimes for some people, they might have certain triggers. So maybe there's something around you or something that happens that triggers said trigger the bad vice. So try to stay away from those triggers or try not to, frankly, try not to trigger it yourself.
True.
I think you made a very good point in terms of, I've heard this in terms of like quitting something. Apparently you're supposed to, a part of quitting is mainly just replacing that habit with something else.
Yep.
And I think in this, and I don't really have advice for this particularly, but it's like you have to basically try to find something to replace that vice with. I think that could be very hard. I think that could be very difficult because you now have to figure out something positive to do with your time that you used to do whatever that bad thing that you have to do. I think also what might help too is like try in moderation. So like,
so before you kind of continue, don't automatically shut yourself off of it. Slowly, like wean yourself off of it.
So like, let's say if it's drinking and you drink 7 days a week.
Yeah.
At first, maybe try doing 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Then drop it down to 5.
Yep.
Then maybe drop it down to 3.
Yep.
Then drop it down to 2.
Yep.
But like gradually. Because sometimes if you just cut cold turkey, it could be so much harder.
Tremendously harder. Yeah.
Exactly. It could be so much harder compared to, you know what, I'm going to baby step this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to only do it twice a week.
Yeah.
Then do that for a little bit. Okay, maybe now I'm going to do it once a week.
And see how you feel.
Okay, you know what? Let me do once every 2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Until the point where you're kind of at the point where you're not doing it forever.
Yeah.
Because I also think, too, like in terms of a bad habit or vice, why people kind of want to kick it is because, one, it's impacting their way of life.
Yeah.
And typically, if something's impacting your way of life.
Might be negatively.
Yeah, negatively. I feel like you're typically doing it more often than not.
You're doing it more often than the positive things that you should be doing.
Exactly. So, like, there's nothing wrong with having a drink every once in a while. But what's wrong is if you're an alcoholic, you drink all the time.
Yeah.
I haven't met anyone who's like, I drink once a week or once every week, and I need to stop that.
Yeah.
Typically, they don't stop it because that's not affecting their everyday life. They're not affecting what they have to do. Mm-hmm. Typically, the people who want to stop is the people who are doing what? Who are doing it every day, or it's to the point where it's affecting their way of life in a negative way.
True.
So I also think this is where kind of moderation comes into effect. Not saying, regardless, you should probably stop drinking altogether or stop smoking altogether or stop whatever you believe your bad habit is altogether, of course. Mm-hmm. But I think what will help is just maybe trying to reduce it down to where it's more of a moderation type of thing, to where it's not affecting your way of life. You like to drink, but you save it to, I only drink on Saturdays. Yeah. And on top of that, I'm not going to get drunk. I'm just going to get a little tipsy and then call it a...
You know when to cut yourself off.
You know when to cut yourself off and call it a day. And I just think a lot of times when it comes to bad habits, it's typically something that's ruining their way of life, that's ruining how they're living to the point where it's that bad. Compared to, I work every day, I work 40 hours a day, I make sure all my stuff is taken care of, you have a family, you provide for them, you do all of that stuff, you take care of all your responsibilities. And then, okay, one day a week, okay, fine, I'll have a drink. But you already know you don't feel as bad and you don't consider it to be a bad habit or a vice. Why? Because you already done took care of everything you need to take care of.
Exactly. So it's not like you did that thing and you wasted a day. You at least got shit done.
Exactly.
Then you did the whatever you wanted to do after everything was once completed.
After everything was once completed. But I would definitely say, one, try to replace it with something like you said. Try not to put yourself in the environment where everyone else is doing it, where everyone else is surrounding it. Try to limit those triggers that you have. And this kind of goes into evaluating yourself, like you said earlier. You got to know your triggers. Yeah. So you kind of got to go within to realize, oh, when this happens, this is what triggers this reaction, which now triggers me to do this.
Yep.
So I think, like you said earlier, you have to evaluate yourself to help with your triggers. And I also do think don't be too hard on yourself. And understand this is it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, so if you do mess up,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Just get back up.
Try to get back to it.
Do it again.
Because a lot of it is just kind of like building discipline. It's just like with everything, it just takes time. It takes repetition. You don't wake up disciplined.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
I always use the gym because I think the gym best represents me in terms of in terms of discipline. It's very easy for me to get up and go to the gym. Mm-hmm. But also, I'm 23 years old and I've been doing this since I was 11.
Yeah, you built up.
I done took years, you know what I mean? I done spent time to actually put behind it.
In a way, it's kind of like muscle memory.
Type shit. So it's a little different. I've been doing it for 12 years compared to someone who just started. Yeah. So my discipline with the gym is so much easier because I've been doing these reps.
It's normal to you.
And best believe in the beginning, bro, I wasn't like this.
It wasn't normal.
I didn't want to go to the gym. Yeah. I was like, yo, why am I doing this? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It was more pain than pleasure. Yeah. Now things have changed, so I've derived some type of sense of pleasure in it, so it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So I think just like with everything, you have to be able to form some type of discipline and you continue going. And just like when I first started, there were days I didn't go. There were days I messed up, missed 2-3 days, and I got back. We were good for a couple of weeks, then all right, fell off.
You know, you always end up getting back.
But I always end up getting back. And I think that's the main thing. And eventually it'll kind of click. And that's with everything. Everything's like in moderation. So be careful going cold turkey because that might be way too much for you.
Yeah, true.
So just cut it down. So if you're doing it 7 days a week, try 6.
Yeah.
Do that for 1 or 2 weeks. Try 5.
I think that's decent advice.
Try 4. Try 3 until now you're doing it maybe once a week.
Not just cutting off immediately.
Exactly.
'Cause
Now
that ends up having you to relapse a lot.
typically, because the urge just gets so fucking hard, and especially if you've been doing said bad advice for so long,
Yeah, it's tough to just break that off rip.
it's tough to just break it cold turkey. Now some people can. Some people got that willpower, and if you do,
Yeah.
that is tremendous,
Yeah,
and
that's
more
good.
and more respect to you.
Yeah, for real.
But not everybody has that. So sometimes it's just best to, moderation, and just slowly wean it off until you're not doing that at all, or until maybe you got it down to once a month. Some people indulge in once a month, or they do 1 week a month or something like that. But just try to, I guess, cut it down that way.
I see. Kind of going off of what you had said about not putting yourself into situations, and what I also said of trying to find like-minded folk. If you were trying to do something to better your life with any of these vices that we kind of just named, and you notice the people around you are either pushing you to continue doing those things or trying to hinder that process, don't be afraid to be like, all right, well, I got to just separate myself from them. You know, even though they might have been in your life for a long time, a lot of people got to understand people change over time.
True.
And a lot of the friends that you kind of grew up with, you're not going to have as you grow into adulthood.
Things change.
Because people go in different paths, people are going on different journeys. You're meant for something different. And if this is a change that you kind of want to make, you got to be loyal to yourself first and foremost, especially if it's a more positive change. It's different if they're like, hey, man, I think you should go into the gym.
Yeah, that's a
Or,
little
hey,
different.
man, I think you should, stop doing certain things. Cool, listen to them. But if they're like, hey, man, like, you want to come drinking with me this Saturday, and like you're trying to actively stop that,
then you probably should be like,
no, I'm not gonna. Even if you've known that man for like 10, 15 years, listen, man, I don't want to. I'm not trying to put myself in that type of situation.
Yeah.
And I know it can be quite difficult because a lot of people have love for their friends, but you have to understand it has nothing to do with not loving your friends. It has to do more with just loving and trying to respect yourself.
Exactly.
Knowing that these things that they're partaking in, though everyone else has the right to make their own choices, I have a right to make my own.
Exactly.
And I personally believe these are some changes that I want to make in my life. So when you do that, you were able to separate yourself from, one, getting into situations wherein that would happen to you in the first place. And if you were strong enough in maybe not fully getting rid of those friends, but limiting the amount of time you hang out with those friends, the journey becomes a lot easier. And you might find people who are like-minded that the Lord will send to actually be there and help you out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think also some people have like FOMO, like fear of missing out.
Yeah, man, for real.
Because of that, that's why they want to.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta, especially if that's what you want and that's what you're trying to do.
You gotta hold your tongue to it.
Sometimes you just gotta. You gotta miss that party.
Yeah,
you gotta miss that. You know what I mean? You gotta miss that. Miss going to the bar and shit like that.
Yeah, man.
And
let's be honest, you're not missing out much.
Bruh.
You're not missing out much. Recently, I went to the bar, and I'm like, I remember this. This was kind of cool,
It's
but
not bad.
really, it's just a whole bunch of people standing around drinking.
And that's it.
Yeah, you get to look at girls.
Get to talk to girls.
You get to talk to them, possibly dance with them.
Type shit.
But that's really as far as that's gonna go. Like, I'm not going there and actively meeting new guy friends. Like, that's just not.
It's more like I'm
taking
meeting
place.
people for the night.
Yeah.
So like you'll go there, you might meet a girl, talk to her, chop it up, meet a dude, talk to him, whatever.
But like, I'm not leaving and hanging out with y'all.
Like y'all are my friends.
Yeah.
Like this is more like just a night type of thing. You guys are not my new friend.
Yeah. So just, if you want these habits to stop, don't put yourself, like Tyler said, in those situations. Like I said, try to surround yourself with like-minded folk.
That helps.
Or if people around you who aren't trying to change in that regard, separate yourself from them over time. And frankly, a lot of other things that we've kind of named so far today.
Yeah, I agree.